Hello and welcome to the Art of Artisan. I'm Rooker and today I'm going to be making a deck built around two cards, which there are actually a lot of copies of each of these cards, but first we have double striking creatures like Twin Blade Geist, and then we have cards like Mordenkainen's Polymorph, which turns a creature into a dragon with power and toughness 4/4 and gives it flying. So this combination of cards ends up meaning that we get to send a double striking creature in the air for 8 damage. That's pretty hard for our opponent to block. So the name for this deck ended up being Double Dragon because of these two cards. One's double strike, one's a card that makes your creature a dragon. And then Neon Dynasty gave us some new cards that got added to the deck, so I had to name it Double Dragon Neon. So, first half of our deck, the double, is just a bunch of double striking creatures. We threw in Fencing Ace, which if you're playing standard, you can't actually use. Thunderous Orator is the cool card here, though, as it can have double strike if we have another double striking creature on the battlefield. Our dragon cards are Mordenkainen's Polymorph, which gives it flying as an upside, Serpentine Ambush, which is the biggest one, Suit Up, which is really nice because it can draw us a card, and frankly this deck has a terrible curve, so this card was a huge addition to the deck. And lastly, Symmetry Sage, which is one of our weakest cards because we don't have that many instants and sorceries in the deck, but it is a good curve filler and it does work well in sometimes. Supporting the plan, we have Angel of Unity, once again an Artisan, an Alchemy only card, and frankly this deck just doesn't work if you're doing it in standard as I think about it, because Angel of Unity is a card that does help tie the deck together. If we don't draw any of our dragon cards, it can at least make our double strikers into 2/2s and 3/3s, which is actually pretty powerful. As well, it's really nice with Thunderous Orator, giving us potentially a flying, life-linking, double strike vigilance creature, which will win any race. Traveling Minister thrown in the deck to fill out the 1-drop slot a bit more, great with double striking creatures and as a cleric to trigger Angel of Unity. And lastly, we've got some protection that also doubles as making it so our creatures can get through blockers. Sejiri Shelter protects from a color. You see a guard approach, can either tap down a creature or give one of our creatures hexproof. And this deck really needs the white half of the deck, which is the double, and the blue half of the deck, which is the dragon. And so there's more tap lands in this deck than I normally run in a deck. So that is Double Dragon Neon. And I've tried this deck quite a bit before the additions from Neon Dynasty and the recent balance update to Symmetry Sage. So I'm excited to see if it does better than it did back then, because back then it felt like it just barely wasn't there. So let's get to the games and see how it does. Alrighty, this is game 2, but it's going to look like game 1 in the video because I accidentally did not record game 1, the audio for it at least. So going into game 2, you may notice that I'm in gold range right now. I was testing the Elf and Warrior decks with all the Alchemy rebalances and dropped a ton. Those decks aren't very good. I think I can keep this. I actually mostly was testing the Warrior deck. The Elf deck, this is kind of funny, but I am out of uncommon wild cards and was unable to really make it all the way. So maybe in a future video I'll do Elves, but Warriors, I'm not sure I will. Alright, we're just going to try and get one of our double strikers down. Our opponent's playing green, so they probably don't have very much life gain or blockers for flyers, which means I'm not sure what someone would foretell in green. That's kind of scaring me. But assuming they are just a generic aggro deck, we should be able to beat them in a race fairly easily. Opponent is... they're probably... okay, they're just werewolves. Pack Song Pup. That is something that can gain them life, so we just need to make sure we always attack in the air. And that is a hard card to race. Okay, Angel of Unity is good, I guess. We could just swing with Fencing Ace and see what our opponent does, which I'm leaning towards trying here. If they block with like everything, we can just Serpentine Ambush, kill all their creatures. Not all of them, but yeah, let's see what they do. And they know there's a trap, so they don't block. We get in 2 damage. And do we play another Double Striker? No, I think we play Angel of Unity here. Next turn we can Symmetry Sage and I'm actually going to do Symmetry Sage here. But we can Symmetry Sage and Mordenkainen's Polymorph or Serpentine Ambush, which should get him for a lot of damage. Okay, so they're just wolves. They're not even werewolves. They're just wolves right now. And they've got a big tramply creature. Not sure why they attacked with the pups, because we get a free block and gain a life anyways. Okay. So Symmetry Sage. Which pumps up our Twin Blade Geist. And now we are going to swing with both and see what our opponent does. If they double block Fencing Ace, they don't even kill it. Alrighty. Serpentine Ambush on the Fencing Ace. Gets rid of Primal Adversary and turns our Angel of Unity into a 3/3. And we are now winning the race. Alrighty. What does our opponent have? I mean, Paxlong Pup is just going to keep growing. But I'm not sure if that matters if we keep on getting these double strike hits in. Feeling really good about where we're at, actually. Although if our opponent has a removal or some crazy spell, I'm actually just going to let the damage all go in. A little bit scared to lose the Symmetry Sage. Okay. So here we could play out our entire hand. Would that give us lethal? You see a guard approach to tap down a blocker, plus Mordenkainen's Polymorph to turn this into a 4/4. This will be a 3/3, this will be a 4/4. That's 4 damage plus 8 damage. No, that'll be 2 damage short. Okay, we can only deal 15 damage this turn, so we're just going to play Twin Blade Geist. Nice and simple. And then, are we safe to swing in with the crew? I think the answer is yes, but we're going to need to immediately Mordenkainen's Polymorph the Fencing Ace and pump up Angel of Unity. Okay, so we hit in for a decent amount here. And next turn we can kill them just with our flyers if we have You See a Guard Approach still in hand. So I think we win here, unless they have removal for one of our flyers. Oh, that's what they had. Okay. How big is that? It's an 8/8. Okay, so they've got a lot of trampling damage here. If we block with Twin Blade Geist, they get in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 14, 15, 16. Okay, so we have to tap down one of their creatures. So we're going to tap down the Lupine Harbinger and see what happens. Twin Blade Geist is now a 4/2 double strike this turn, which means if they attack, they're in trouble. All right, we get rid of their Cemetery Prowler, and I think we win the game. Easy peasy. Yeah, they can't block all the damage we're dealing this next turn. Oh, and that makes it even more obvious. Yep, Fencing Ace. Good game. Alrighty, that's the deck performing Exactly how we'd hoped. We faced a pretty non-interactive, aggressive deck, and we beat them. We are the more aggressive, more powerful deck. Alrighty, on to game 2, which is actually game 3. Alrighty, game 2 versus Demix. We'll see what we've got for our opening hand. And we don't have a double striker, but we're really likely to draw into one. And everything else about this hand is pretty good. Fairly balanced hand, so we're going to keep this. We'll lead off with Angel of Unity to pump the Sage. Or if we draw a double striker, we'll probably pump that. Alrighty. Here go Demix. They're playing some sort of green deck. Not usually my favorite thing to play against. But with this deck, I think we win most of the matchups that involve green. The very first game that I played was actually against Enchantress, green-white Enchantress, and we won that. Oh, this looks like it's Runes or Enchantress. And regardless, I think this is good for us. Alright, Symmetry Sage. And now if our opponent attacks, I think we will just kill the Jukai Naturalist with whatever spell we want. Our opponent, one fun note about Perpetually is that this sets their base power to 3, a creature, but Perpetually is not part of base power. Okay, they play Borrowed Time. And we're going to give our Symmetry Sage Hexproof and turn it into a 4/4. Because Perpetually is not part of the base power, it's actually a 4/4 instead of a 3/4. Same thing if I played Serpentine Ambush on it, it would actually be a 6/6. Alright. So we are drawing none of our double strikers, but we definitely can win a race here if we keep up this sort of card draw. Swing in. Our opponent doesn't block. And we're going to turn our Angel of Unity into a 5/5. And our Symmetry Sage into a 4/4. And if I know any Runes decks, they really do not have flyers. So the only way that they get out of this is with a bunch of life gain. Or really just with a bunch of life gain or removal. Rune of Sustenance is a scary card. That's not good for us. Symmetry Sage? Yep, Symmetry Sage. Alright, that's going to slow us down a bunch. That was pretty much a 3/3, well, a 4/4 flyer for the next couple turns. And Angel of Unity. And this is the downside of the deck. We don't have that many creatures. And we don't have much space for interaction. So if our opponent has removal and threats, we fairly often are not going to do much. This is good, though. This is good. We can deal 8 damage each turn. That's still not enough if our opponent keeps swinging in with the Naturalists, which they will do. And I'm just going to let it go in. No, I don't think it's worth wasting a Polymorph to block them. Here I think we'll just swing in. See what the opponent does. They're probably just going to chump block. Means this turn's a bit of a waste. And I think we're now losing the race. Wow. Okay. Opponent is protecting their doggy to kill our Blade Master. That was actually a cool play on their part. Okay. We have 3 polymorphs. This is potentially like 24 damage, but it's there goes our double striker. And I think we lose the game now. Thunderous Order is nice, but not nice enough. End turn. Okay, what are our possible outs here? Okay, opponent draws all 4 of their Circle of Confinements, plus a borrowed time this game. This is... I guess this tells us this is an even matchup, because we won the first time, but apparently our opponent has some draws that just destroy us. Holy cow. Speaking of drawing 4 copies of the same card, and we'll make our opponent finish it off. But this one's pretty unwinnable at this point. Like, our possible outs are like Angel of Unity into some sort of... Okay, outs are shrinking. Angel of Unity could help us survive a turn, and then Thunderous Orator, and then a Double Striker. Like, drawing those 3 cards in a row. Alright, we lose. We'll have fun turning our opponent's stuff into 4/4s. You become a 4/4, and you become a 4/4. And I could do that 2 more times if I had the lands. Alright. Yep. Not very many creatures in our deck. And if we don't have creatures, we don't really do anything. So that's the downside. On to Game 3. Game 3. Accidentally forgot to update the record between the first 2 games. So, and I'm counting the game that happened that I accidentally didn't record properly. So we are at a winning record so far. This hand is really... It has a lot of action, but there's no way we can keep it with 1 land. Alright, tap lands, but that's fine. We've already got a flyer, so I think we're going to keep the suit up. The card draw might be nice to dig us out of this mulligan. Let's see what Jaboy is doing. And Duress. There goes our suit up plan. Also, our opponent sees our hand and they probably are understanding exactly what our deck does at this point. Oh, that's a perfect draw. If our opponent doesn't have any creatures, that's a lot of damage. Serpentine Ambush. 2 Serpentine Ambushes is all it takes to win the game. Okay. Conjure a card named Virus Beetle. So our opponent is a Tergrid deck. They're trying to get us to discard a bunch of cards and eventually get to Tergrid. They're probably going to have random cards to make us sacrifice creatures as well. Luckily, after this first hit, we can use Double Strike to block the Swarm Saboteur. But it's still not going to be great to let our opponent get an extra Virus Beetle here. Swarm Saboteur. Opponent gets a Virus Beetle. Guessing they just cast it right away. Okay. We're going to get rid of this. I don't think it will do much in this matchup. I guess the tap down could be nice, but we'll lead with Fencing Ace. I always play Fencing Ace first in case I draw a Angel of Unity, because Fencing Ace is our only creature in the deck that does not trigger Angel of Unity. Sadly, it's a soldier. Our opponent's thinking long and hard about playing a land. They're probably deciding if they want to play Lantern. Okay, no. Just deciding what to kill this turn. Swing in. I'm definitely blocking the beetle. If they have You Are Already Dead, I'll just laugh because that is an awesome card. Okay. Their plan is to just discard us into oblivion. And I think we just get rid of the Orator, which is really painful, but... And I'm expecting our opponent to somehow hit us again with the Swarm Saboteur. So I'm just going to leave back this Tranquil Cove in hand. So we have something to discard if they play another Virus Beetle. Because we really want this Serpentine Ambush. That's a lot of damage. Our opponent is thinking very hard about removing our... Alright, yep, there goes another creature. And I think we lose the game at this point. Our opponent has just done a great job of emptying our hand, and I'm not sure there's anything we can do to really come back from it. Like, they're just going to keep playing these virus beetles. All right, sure. Another Symmetry Sage. I guess we just play Symmetry Sage and leave up the Tranquil Cove one more time. And then we just need to play out our hand every turn after this. Just play any cards we draw so they can't keep making us discard. Virus Beetle is a lot worse if your opponent has no cards in hand. That's another deck that I dropped into gold testing. Trying to make an Artisan discard creature deck. Okay, there's the Beetle. Ooh, are they going to double discard us? If so, we're very, very dead. Yep. Nicely done, opponent. There goes the ambush. And we block the beetles. If they play a Turgid, we just... Well, it won't be that bad because we don't have much to discard, but it'll still be a little bit sad to have a 4 or 5 menace on the battlefield. Opponent's going to start firing up Hive of the Eye Tyrant for more damage, and then we slowly die. Another double strike creature would be really nice to make them remove it so this Saboteur can't keep getting in. At this point, we don't care if it hits us because we're empty-handed. We're really hoping we don't draw lands. I guess one more land is fine because that means we can play Suit Up, but right now we're just trying to play everything. Okay. That is not a card I was expecting, and it is a card that wins our opponent the game. Yep, there's an island. Your go, opponent. Can you beat an island? And the answer is yes, they can Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Is there any card that survives us another turn? We could draw You see a guard approach and tap down their Hive of the Eye Tyrant next turn and still be dead the turn after that. Angel of Unity doesn't do it. Yep, we lose the game. All right. Very unique deck from our opponent. I expect it's a Turgid deck, but we just failed to keep our creatures on the board. They had just enough removal for our double strikers, and they got way too much value off of that Saboteur. On to game number 4. Game number 4. We've got a tied record so far because of the accidental pre-recorded match. This hand looks really good. I mean, this deck, in weird way, it feels super consistent and super inconsistent at the same time. Like, when we've got 14 double strike creatures potentially in our deck and 12 different pump spells on them, you're always going to draw the combo of those. But at the same time, something like a duress or a removal spell can mean that all of a sudden your hand is doing nothing and all the cards feel useless. So, I don't know. I think it's really matchup dependent, but like in some matchups, the deck will very consistently win. And then in other matchups, the deck will feel super inconsistent. So probably not a deck to take to best of 3. Probably not a deck to rely too heavily on if you're going to be like grinding challenges or whatever. But definitely a fun deck to try every once in a while. I really enjoy it. I think it gets boring if you play like 10 games in a row with it. But it is a unique deck, and it's always fun to surprise your opponent with 10 damage out of nowhere. Are we facing another mono-black control deck? Oh wait, no. They're Orzhov. Okay. they're doing something slightly different. Got Twin Blade Geist and something to protect it. Opponent, your go. And trying to decide if we're next turn we want to just play another threat, or if we just want to use Mordenkainen's Polymorph before our opponent gets rid of our creature. I'm leaning towards Polymorph right now, actually. Because, like, it will turn it into a 5/5 because of the Perpetual buff. So that's I mean, it's close to already almost killing our opponent. I mean, get them down to 8 life. Not too shabby. Our turn. Yeah, especially now that we've drawn an island. I think we lead off by attacking with Twin Blade Geist. The opponent tries to remove it, we can protect it. And then we can Mordenkainen's Polymorph on it as well. Not sure what our opponent's thinking about so hard. Okay. So, oh wait, non-dragon. Oh my goodness. Too bad it's a dragon opponent. Does nothing. Oh my goodness, we didn't even need to use our protection spell. I never noticed that synergy. Mordenkainen's Polymorph as a protection spell against Power Word Kill. That actually probably comes up pretty often. I wonder if I accidentally missed that in a previous game now against our last opponent. Maybe we could have just Mordenkainen something and protected it. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, opponent, removing that. Now, if we draw like a Polymorph and our opponent has nothing else, okay, now it needs to be a Serpentine Ambush. If our opponent has nothing else, we have a lot of draws that are pretty close to lethal at this point. Ooh, nope, never mind. All right, now we are in the part of the game where the deck feels inconsistent. We really need a creature. We don't have that many in the deck. My turn. That is not a creature, although that is a good draw. Honestly, it doesn't matter what creature it is at this point. In fact, the best creature here is probably Symmetry Sage, because we can give it double strike, and that would be really powerful. So, also, I didn't realize our opponent was just a Dungeons deck. Yeah, this deck, Precipitous Drop, I think, is one of the coolest buffs from Alchemy. Getting to see that card do things is fun. Oh my goodness. All right, any creature is pretty close to game for our opponent. Really close to game. I'm trying to think of which one's the best now. I guess it literally doesn't matter. Double strike creatures are probably the worst. Another Duress. We're probably going to just get rid of the Polymorph. So we've got redundant protection, but we don't have redundant. Okay, never mind. We're going to just get rid of our Guard approach. They may be forcing us to discard with City Stalker Connoisseur. I hope our opponent has a Power Word Kill in hand so that we can protect a creature with Mordenkainen's Polymorph again. Oh, that was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in this series. I mean, it almost will never matter that it turns into a dragon, right? Like, same with this turning it into a blue serpent. Like, I guess the blue could matter, like, on Serpentine Ambush. We could maybe, our opponent play something like Sajiri Shelter to get around our blocker, and then we make our blocker blue. I mean, there's a lot of funny stuff with these cards. Weird incidental things they do. It's like turning into a serpent, that's just a flavor thing. Turning into dragon, that's a flavor thing. But it's a flavor thing that does rarely affect the game. And our opponent's popping off a little bit with value, venturing into the dungeon. They're about to get their Fable of the Mirror Breaker in to copy this adventurer. They're close to the part where this just gets too much value to catch up to, especially when they've got so much removal in their deck. And they may just have 2 removal spells in hand. And that's where they got rid of one of our protection spells. Nope, okay. Okay, they've only got 1 removal spell max in hand. If we get a creature, we can give it double strike. And then potentially, you're not a creature. But we can do Sagiri Shelter and Serpentine Ambush to maybe sneak it in on the ground. Or we can do the super convoluted line of turn it into a flying dragon, attack. Once they declare no blockers, we turn it into the 5/5 serpent. Definitely a convoluted line, but okay, literally any creature in our deck now is lethal the turn after we play it. Any creature in our deck. We've only played 3 this game, which means there are 14, 19 minus 3. There are 16 creatures in this deck. 1 in 3 cards is a creature. At this point, we need to draw one. So we're at the point where we're almost dead. Oof. That's a good draw for our opponent. All right. We may be dead even if we draw a creature now. That's disappointing. Yeah. Symmetry Sage maybe can save us just as a powerful blocker. Not actually sure though at this point. Yeah, because our opponent can hit us for 8. Okay, Angel of Unity. Angel of Unity can help us survive. That is pretty much the only way that we survive. But it is a way we survive. Angel of Unity, come on, off the top. And it's a land. Hooray, I love this game. And we concede. Out of our top 16 cards, which is 830, 415. So out of more than a fourth of our deck, we drew well under a fourth of our creatures. Sad day. Game 5. Will this deck redeem itself, or will you only get to see 1 victory in this entire video? This is such a good hand if we draw an island. Not super good, actually. Actually, this isn't great. Yeah, we'll mulligan it. Yeah, this is better. This is actually really quite good. This deck needs like no lands, so we're gonna go super greedy. Dump a land to the bottom. And now we can Thunderous Orator, Twin Blade Geist, and then we'll have, oh, let's go. Okay, that's a fantastic draw, and we're against a green deck. A snow green deck, too. Send a message. Okay, this is a fantastic hand. Drawing an island would be the best draw, but at this point we have a flying double striker plus Serpentine Ambush. Ooh, they have a blocker for flyers. How about that? It's actually kind of a surprise. Okay, Thunderous Order. We'll do no attacks and pass the turn. If our opponent plays like nothing, I think we'll just tap down their archer, because then we can get in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 17 damage. We can get him for 17 damage if we do that. We're doing it. Tap target creature. Sure, make yourself a 3/3. Have fun. Alrighty. Oh, and that's going to give us lethal the turn after. Serpentine Ambush on Twinblade Geist. This, we could pump up Orator, but it actually deals more damage to pump up Sage. Swinging for 17. This is looking real good. What can white do against this? We're about to swing in for 3 with 3 lethal flyers next turn. They're going to have a lot of removal, like 2 removal spells or 2 creatures with reach. But even creatures with reach isn't that good for them because we have double strike on all of our creatures next turn. Not all of them, but 2 of them next turn. Okay, Spirit of the Alder Guard, that's not going to cut it. We win. This is a clear victory here. Suit Up, fun card. But in this case, we're just going to... Okay, opponent scoops it up. They know they're dead. That was very powerful. That's exactly what we want to see the deck do. Turn 4, we had a kill. And that is what it does when your opponent is playing a non-interactive deck too. So definitely a best of 1 deck. Hope your opponent doesn't have interaction, but that was an example of how much it can pop off. All right, let's do a quick conclusion. Talk about the deck, sideboard, potential changes. I don't think there's much of a change that I'd make to the deck, except I might want to add Homestead Courage. Homestead Courage. This card is nice because we could put +1/+1 counters on our creatures, and the flashback means that we can trigger Symmetry Sage twice with it. So replacing Traveling Minister with Homestead Courage, and maybe like a Fencing Ace with Homestead Courage, although we really did run into having too few creatures with this deck. So I'm not sure if replacing a Double Striker would be a good idea. But generally the deck did what I wanted it to. It didn't do it always because we got stopped by opponents with a bunch of removal and whatever. If you were to make this for best of 3, one of the biggest sideboard cards I'd suggest is actually Plate Armor. Plate Armor could replace some of these cards if you've got a bunch of instant speed removal your opponent's playing, because this just makes whatever creature you play into a massive threat. So it'll turn all your creatures. If you top deck a creature, it's a great draw. Selfless Samurai is good for multiple reasons: protection against control, and as well it's lifelink, because we happen to just have these 8 warriors in the deck. So sometimes the lifelink on that will be actually really significant. Chaplain of Alms can be good if you need more creatures and to give them ward against removal. Fading Hope can be good if your opponent's playing tokens of any sort or expensive creatures. Yet another spell to quickly trigger Symmetry Sage. Probably would replace Sea Guard's Approach. More Sajiri Shelters, negates. But really, a very straightforward deck. Does the same thing pretty much every single match. Sometimes it fails to do that thing, sometimes it doesn't, but if it does anything, it's going to be this thing. Double Dragon. And also learned today that this turning Sling into a dragon is actually significant in Standard. We dodged a power word kill by using this as a protection spell. So that's a fun interaction I never thought of. And I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Please like and subscribe. I do these videos every single week, and if you subscribe, you'll get a chance to at least see the video title, know what deck I'm doing, and it can help you brew some cool stuff. And these decks, you can make them yourself. They cost almost nothing for the average player. They're costing a lot for me with my 6 uncommon wild cards left. But if you like this, please subscribe. It really would mean a lot to me. And I hope y'all have a good week enjoying budget magic.